The first scripture text comes from Paul's letter to the church at Philippi. It's the 4th chapter, verses 10 through 20. Listen to these words from our God. I rejoice in the Lord greatly that now at last you have revived your concern for me. Indeed, you were concerned for me, but had no opportunity to show it. Not that I am referring to being in need, for I have learned to be content with whatever I have. I know what it is to have little, and I know what it is to have plenty. In any and all circumstances, I have learned the secret of being well-fed or of going hungry, of having plenty and of being in need. I can do all things through him who strengthens me. In any case, it was kind of you to share my distress. You Philippians indeed know what in the early days of the gospel, when I left Macedonia, no church shared with me in the matter of giving and receiving, except you alone. Even when I was in Thessalonica, you sent me help for my needs more than once. Not that I seek the gift, but I seek the profit that accumulates to your account. I have been paid in full and have more than enough. I am fully satisfied now that I have received from Epaphroditus the gifts you sent, a fragrant offering, a sacrifice acceptable and pleasing to God. And my God will fully satisfy every need of yours, according to his riches in the glory of Jesus Christ. To our God and Father be glory forever and ever. Amen.
Our gospel reading is from Matthew 22, verse 15. Then the Pharisees went and plotted to entrap him in what he said. So they sent their disciples to him, along with the Herodians, saying, Teacher, we know that you are sincere and teach the way of God in accordance with truth, and show deference to no one, for you do not regard people with partiality. Tell us then what you think. Is it lawful to pay taxes to the emperor or not? But Jesus, aware of their malice, said, Why are you putting me to the test, you hypocrites? Show me the coin used for tax. And they brought him a denarius. And then he said to them, Whose head is this, and whose title? They answered, The emperor's. Then he said to him, Give therefore to the emperor the things that are the emperor's, and to God the things that are God's. When they heard this, they were amazed, and they left him and went away.
It was a beautiful day yesterday. Did anybody get outside yesterday? It was magnificent, wasn't it? Well, this time of year, it's fun to get your yard and your house and your garden all ready for winter, isn't it? It's a joy of fall. And I was doing that yesterday. And one thing I have to get ready is my camper. I have a camper. And to get a camper ready, you have to winterize it. And so I had to drain all the water out of it, put winter freeze into it, and then I had to get it ready so that the mice would not come in. So I put Irish Spring soap, I cut it up and put it all over, which is a trick. And the things you put, the dryer sheets, yes, of course, some of you have campers, I see. And then I got 2 big things of mothballs and put it in there. So there's no way some mouse is going to like being in there. And then I went underneath, I jacked it up, and I redid all the little holes that, get into the camper. And I put in some steel wool, and thank you. And I just got it all ready. And then I get over to the back of the sewer system, and I see this huge gaping hole about like this, where the pipes go in. It's like, well, I can't gap that, with goo and things. So I had to go to Lowe's and get that thick, hard fence. You know that hard fence you have that's about 1/4 inch holes that you know that I'm talking about? Whatever that is, I went to get it. So I could staple gun it all around and keep the mice out. And I went there, and the guy said it's in the second aisle out in the gardening section. So I go out there, and I could buy 120 yards of this stuff for $129.95. And I only need a piece this big, right? And so I'm cheap, and I'm not going to spend $129.95 over it. And, half the time in Lowe's, they don't know where all their stuff is. So I'm just going to start looking around, right? And so I started looking around for a piece this big. It's got to be over in plumbing or, by the air conditioning. So I'm stewing and going through, Lowe's, and this one guy comes up to me, and I have no idea who he is. And he says, "Hi, Reverend Mark," which kills me because I don't know who he is, right? And so I can't remember seeing this guy before. I know I have somewhere in my mind. And so he says, "So what are you doing?" So I explain it all to him, and he says, "Hold on." He gets his phone out, and he calls his wife. He says, "Honey, go down to my shop and take a picture of that fence that I have over in the corner." And so within a minute, he says, "Is this what you need?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, why don't you come over and get some right now?" I said, "Well, I work on Saturday nights. How about I come over after church?" He said, "Fine, that'll be fantastic." I still don't know his name. I've got to find out from Kim. He lives 3 doors down from me. You can tell me later. No, you know him. So anyway, I love Vermont because of that. Isn't Vermont great? Cheapers. The people are always saying hi and friendly, and they're always willing to help, and they're always so nice in Vermont. I come from the city. Everyone's not nice in the city. And my brother came up, and he was visiting, and he was living with us, and he's from the city too. He said, "No one is that nice." He said, "I know these Vermonters. They would jump at the chance not to be nice, So he's like looking for, all over. And we drive around the Northeast Kingdom, and every little tiny general store we go in says, "Oh, you're new. Have a free cup of coffee." The nice lady behind thing. So he can't believe it. And so one morning, he goes over to the Essex Grill, and he has breakfast, and he's talking to people, and he borrows, it's like October, so he's freezing. And so he borrows my thick winter hat, the furry kind, pulls it down. It's October, right? Obviously, he's from out of town. So he pulls it down, and he comes back home, and he says, "Well, where's my hat? I'm going to need that in 3 or 4 months. I want my hat." I said, "Oh, I'll go get it." So he goes and gets it, and he comes back. "Ha! Somebody stole your hat. I left it there. Somebody stole it. I knew you Vermonters had a dark side." Right? And so it's like, now all I know is my hat's gone. Like, it's not his fault that my hat's gone, right? Okay. So I get to work on Tuesday, and sitting on my desk is my hat with a little note. "Your brother left this at the grill." Right? I love Vermont. It's just unbelievable, that stuff like that happens all the time. And then I went up to a cross-country meet up in Missisquoi Valley High School. Yeah, I went way up there. It's way up north of St. Albans. And it was a beautiful day driving up yesterday. It was just gorgeous. I love driving around this time of year. And and there was no construction. It was all done going up, so it was fantastic. And the kids had a great race, and the Essex cross-country team, they won, right? Woo-hoo! And we reconnected. I reconnected with some of the kids from, because I go up to Acadia and chatted with them a little bit. And of course, when you're there, you always meet somebody who's like 3 parts removed from you. "Oh, you know this," and then, you're talking to somebody. Do you ever do that in Vermont? Who's ever done that in Vermont, right? Don't you just love Vermont? I love that. It's good living here. It's beautiful. The people are kind and generous. There's a great sense of community. People really care, and they work hard to make their community a better place. It's a great place for me to have raised a family. And we have fantastic school. Coming from Miami, Vermont has very little violence. I feel like I live in Petticoat Junction, really. I hear the whistle every night. I rejoice that in 2008 you called me to be your pastor, and that you've been paying me ever since. I love that. I rejoice and am grateful that your support isn't just financial, but that you've expressed true concern for me, not only by paying my salary, but you've supported and cared for me and my family. I remember the pouring of love that came when we adopted Margaret, and I was gone for, a couple months for paternity leave and going over to Nepal. And in her room, there are these two big pictures, and she's wearing a pink, fancy little dress. And all of you have signed these pictures. There's like hundreds of signatures on these two things that are framed in her room. And at night, we look up at them. It's just comforting. And she knows people in this church love her. And she's comfortable to run all around. And I love the fact that when I was struggling with my niece's death, when I went out to Colorado, I got love and support and cards from all of you. And of course, the outpouring of food and cards and understanding when Karen had cancer, when our whole family was reeling in disbelief. All of you were there, and you brought food, and it was heartening. And in some of my darkest days of ministry, when this dysfunction of the church and the personalities caused me to struggle a bit, and I think Cynthia said, well, it's Pastor Appreciation Month. And it's an anniversary of your ordination. So she went and publicized that, and I had hundreds of cards that came in this dark time of ministry that just picked me up. They were cards. It was fantastic. It has been kind of all of you to share in my distress and to hold me up and remind me that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And now, when I first came to this church, when you hired me, some of you, I don't know if we have any of the search committee here, but they were here at the first service, a number of them. Anybody from my search committee? Nobody from my, I can say whatever I want then. So when I came, they were concerned about the long, steady decrease of church membership and people in worship. It mirrored our culture and the mainline church's slow death on a vine, it seems like. And the church wasn't in the best of shape financially. We ran a deficit, and we used all of our income from the endowment in the general budget. And we used to have this little thing, if there was a surplus, they would use it as part of the budget the next year, as part of the income. And when I first came, Heather and Sandy approached me and said, we have no adult education. We need adult education. And so over the years, you and I and the members have been able to stem that decline and slowly bring more people to the church. Carl just did this great graph, and it shows a slow, steady increase of people in church attendance. And no longer, since the 10 years that I've came, do you know that we have not had one deficit one of those years? And do you know that in the midst of the greatest recession since the Great Recession, that we also stopped taking all money from the endowment? We take zero from the endowment now. And that little rollover they used to use as a cushion, we don't use that anymore. We have a zero fund budget process in this church. And so we have been able to stem the financial tide as well. And we've had increased giving. When I came, the average pledge, was about $800. Everyone, that was the average pledge. And now the average pledge is close to $1,500. Do you believe that? That's almost double in 10 years. That's fantastic. And the median and average and total pledge amounts have increased every year. And so, oftentimes on Stewardship Sundays, the ministers stand up and say, give more, come on, you better do it, or you're going to hell. But I'm not going to say that. Because y'all have done so well. I just wanted to say thank you for your support. And you know what? We just also raised $950,000 on top of our pledging. My first trustees meeting that I came to here, they said, well, we want to have a capital campaign because our physical plan is looking pretty rough. That was 10 years ago. They said, we can't do it because we're in the middle of a great recession. So we waited 7 years before we initiated that process again. And we've had an incredibly successful campaign to take care of this old building. Can't you wait to see what happens when we get rid of the gray? Oh my gosh! No, I'm not saying one color or another. And you know, we've continued to meet the cultural changes of our times to drive folks and children out of church. We are still known as a church that has one of the best and largest and most successful children's and youth program in the state. And when I came, we distributed 40,000 pounds of food through our food pantry to about 50 to 55 families. Now we distribute 90,000 pounds of food to 80-plus families twice a month in our church. Early in my ministry, when I came, the thrift store ladies, they were a little tired and discouraged because some days they were making $30 and $40. And they'd been doing it for 10 plus years and they were tired, right, Gene? They were tired. How long have you been doing it? A long time. Well, they weren't sure if they were going to be able to do it anymore. And then they got some new ideas and some new energy and some new leadership, and they made some changes, and they got rid of some of the clothes, and now they make hundreds of dollars a day. I've got a thing in my drawer of $185 they made last Thursday. They've got more money than they know what to do with now. It's unbelievable. And in this time, we've started the SS Eats Out, free meals. We had a great 150th anniversary. When I came, I said, we can start the sermon talk back. And so every Tuesday, since the moment I came, we've been meeting on Tuesday and talking about the sermon. We have had 15 to 20 people there every Tuesday since. That's more than a third of the churches in Vermont that get on a Sunday morning. That's fantastic that it's lasted 10 years. And we've got more small groups than you can shake a stick at. We have the Wednesday night searchers, we have the Joy Club, the Book Club. Jonah does a yoga and meditation group. We have a group that's ladies' night out. I don't even know what they do. We've added 3 scout troops. We have an international mission to Jamaica every other year. We have unbelievable music here. We have groups that are here every single day of the year, morning, noon, and night. This church is always used. We are so busy and healthy and active and vibrant. Whew! Like Paul in the Philippian church, he loved and longed for them. When he left, he wanted to be back with them. He called them his joy and his crown. It's interesting, as I was thinking, they were the only church that supported him. And so he might not have continued ministry had they not. The Christian church would be a different place had Paul not been successful. Paul has shaped our theology, has shaped our communion, has shaped how we understand Christ's message in this world. And it came from this one small little church that didn't have much money themselves, supporting Paul in his ministry from the very beginning, in sharing the gospel. And because of that, he calls them not his church, but he calls them partners in what they're doing. All the things that I've read about and all the things that we've been able to do, you might notice that I changed the pronoun from I at the beginning to we. Because all of you have done it. The Protestant Reformation got the power from up here and from the leaders of the church, and they gave it to the people in reading Scripture and raising their own money and doing all these things together to claim the theology and who we are together with the minister, not us telling you what to think and believe and do. That never works in congregational churches, I can tell you that. And so Paul empowers the Protestant reformers to have a partnership with their pastor as they do ministry in this work. And I know that I can get a little worked up sometimes in a sermon. I know not everyone loves that. I know that I can sometimes do crazy things in worship. I know that I can even be edgy and step right into the middle of controversy. You know that, right? You know I sometimes do that. I know that my personality sometimes rubs people the wrong way. I know that I fall short of the glory of God and mess up all the time. But after 10 years, I have to tell you that I am so thrilled to still be here. And I am so thrilled that some of you have supported this ministry that we have had since the very beginning. Who's been here 10 years? All of you have supported this ministry that long. And I am unbelievably grateful for that. Your financial support from the beginning. Some of you 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. Some of you 70 years. Right, Bob?
That's correct.
Some of you for 70 years have been supporting this ministry. And what you don't know is we ministers come and go, right? Everything we do here, everything I do here, everything Josh does here, and the deacons and the musicians, it's your ministry. You give because of what you've done, and the success over these 10 years is yours. And as Paul says, I will reaffirm, I am fully satisfied. I am so happy that your church is doing so well. And I am sure that your pledges and offerings are acceptable and pleasing to our God. And so I just have to say, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.